The Austrian Grand Prix weekend opened not with a roar, but with a ripple, one that quietly reshaped the F1 narrative without warning. This wasn't a record-breaking lap or a fiery crash that had fans on the edge of their seats. It was something subtler, something symbolic. A teenager from Ireland strapped himself into a Formula One car for the very first time, and in that quiet moment before the engine screamed to life, history was already being rewritten. Alex Dunn, a name many had barely heard, was about to step onto motorsport's biggest stage. And not just as a stand-in, but as a statement. Dunn's appearance wasn't just another F2 graduate getting a taste of the big leagues. It marked the first time since 1982 that a driver born in the Republic of Ireland took part in an official Formula One session. That's more than 4 decades of silence broken in a single afternoon in Spielberg. But the silence didn't break gently. From the moment Dunn hit the throttle, he was caught in the storm that is F1 radio chaos: multiple voices, rapid instructions, and the high-pressure code speak that only seasoned veterans usually master. We can go purple C3. Speed per night's run. Hard as I can. I hear like 3 people on the radio at once. It was madness, but Dunn didn't just survive it. He thrived. By the end of the session, he was just under a tenth of a second off Oscar Piastri's McLaren teammate for the day and placed 4th overall in the timesheet's 4th on debut, in machinery built for the elite. And when the helmet came off, the humility spoke louder than the lap time. I want to say a massive thank you. This is the best day of my life. That gratitude, that awe, wasn't just personal, it was generational. Every young driver watching knew they were witnessing the dream, alive and real. And he wasn't alone in making waves. Ferrari handed the reins to Dino Beganovic, another F2 rising star, who took over for Charles Leclerc. It was the Swede's second time in an F1 cockpit this season. And while his lap times didn't make headlines, his presence added to the unmistakable theme of this weekend: transition, trust. The sport isn't just nurturing its future, it's putting it to work. But as the rookies adjusted to the cockpit, familiar tensions bubbled under the surface. Max Verstappen, reigning world champion, faced a disruption of his own. His usual race engineer, Gianpiero Lambiasufin, referred to as his second brain, was absent. In his place stood Simon Rennie, a seasoned voice in Formula One, but not one Verstappen is used to hearing mid-corner at 200 miles an hour. And in typical Max fashion, miscommunication struck within minutes. There was a flurry of gestures from the cockpit. Was it a thumbs up? A sarcastic shrug? The broadcast couldn't tell, but it was clear something wasn't syncing. That disconnect seemed contagious. Yuki Tsunoda, never one to hide frustration, locked up heavily into turn 3 shortly after. "Yeah, the brake is very poor." "Understood," came the resigned reply from his engineer. It was a rough start to a critical weekend for the Japanese driver, who continues to fight for his future seat amid relentless speculation. Meanwhile, Mercedes prodigy Andrea Kimi Antonelli finally arrived at the Red Bull ring, not as a fan, not as a junior, but as a Formula One driver. Just weeks ago, he was celebrating his first F1 points and finishing school exams. Now he was battling for grip in one of the most temperamental cars on the grid. "I'm struggling with the front locking," he radioed in, clearly unsettled. But that's what FP1 is for: painful trial, microscopic gains. George Russell, on the other hand, dialed in instantly, setting the fastest time of the session. The Brit led Verstappen by under a tenth. But the message was clear: Mercedes came to Austria with intent. Further down the order, legends like Fernando Alonso still had tricks to show. In a moment that could have ended in disaster, the Spaniard spun on his outlap but used every ounce of his experience to keep the car from kissing the barriers. "That was the worst outlap we can do. Good to do it in FP1, he said, half irritated, half relieved. It's that balance between frustration and finesse that makes Alonso's longevity so staggering. Seconds later, he was back racing, wheel to wheel with Pierre Gasly, elbows out like it was 2006 again. But not everyone fared as well. Both Haas drivers overcooked turn 1, Ali Behrman locking up, Esteban Ocon opting for the escape road, and even Alex Albon pushing beyond track limits on the exit of turn 9. It was a session that punished overconfidence and rewarded precision. And yet, even amid the spins and lockups, the session painted a powerful picture of Formula One's present and future. Russell, Verstappen, Piastri, Dunn, a blend of veterans and visionaries, all fighting for fractions of a second. Pierre Gasly sneaking into 5th, Bortoleto delivering another solid showing, and Albon placing 7th, reminding everyone that midfield battles are anything but boring. That is the session wrapped. The top 10 gave us something to chew on. Russell at the summit, followed by Verstappen, Piastri, and the sensational Alex Dunn. Gasly in 5th. Then Bortoleto, Albon, Sainz, Hamilton, and Hayar closing out the 10. But beyond the numbers, it was the symbolism that stuck. The changing of the guard, the tension of transition, the sport showing us, once again, that the future is closer than we think. This wasn't just FP1 in Austria. This was a snapshot of tomorrow, of young dreams tested under the sun, of veterans sharpening their tools, and of a sport constantly rewriting itself, one lap at a time. If you felt that same rush we did watching this session unfold, if the sight of a 19-year-old Irish kid nearly outpacing seasoned pros gave you goosebumps, then hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that go beyond the surface. And tell us in the comments which young driver impressed you most today, because in Formula One, the future isn't waiting, it's already here.